This is where 311 recorded Hydroponic in Unity. Let's go in. Talk to us about this. What do we got here?
So this is when 311 played in prison, and Nick's wearing one of my t-shirts, and I had him pose in front of the razor fence. And we actually got in trouble for that. so we're down in Lincoln, maximum security, wonderful experience all day, and then we're leaving, go to lunch. I've got a cop car in front of me, a cop car behind me, and a cop car on the side of me, and all the equipment and essays in the van. So they don't like people taking pictures on the razor fence. They were very serious. Of them, and then it seems like they go. I've seen them $400 or $500 in Japan. That's when I first realized, oh, this is going to take off again.
So, not talking about the layout, just the CD.
Yeah. Yep.
Because I had one of those, but it was before we like really appreciated. You know, it goes in your car, it gets scratched. And it just wore out from use.
Yeah. Well, people bring in the cassettes, and I go, yeah, that's not worth that. You know, all the labeling's off, and it barely runs.
Oh, yeah.
But the CDs hung up pretty good. But, yeah, they only did 1,000. I tried to get them to do, you know, to reissue it. I kept pushing. And then finally they did the Omaha sessions. We got a dolly over there.
Please tell me that's original.
It is.
What?
I just went.
Nils has an original dolly in here. What is going on?
I'm the luckiest bastard you'll ever meet. So I was feeling a little down, and driving. It was dark. I just happened to see a thrift store I'd never been in before, and the people in there. It was everything. The stuff in there. Everything was just down and broken.
Mm-hmm.
And then I saw the dolly sideways with a busted frame, and I don't like gold paint.
Yeah.
I almost didn't buy it. But it's the best $24 I ever spent.
Jesus Christ.
That's Stephen Still's personal cassette deck, used on a couple world tours. Presto 900, like they would have had in Sun Studios. And then Liberace's original microphone, Liberace's gold microphone. I used to work sound for him.
No.
That's where Chad worked.
Yep.
Oh,
nice.
That's where Linda worked.
Yep.
And then
this logo is very much like
his logo. Yeah. I almost brought that shirt this weekend.
Yeah.
When Chad opened up his drum store in L.A.
Yeah. So Drum City was like 3 or 4, drum shops that got together and just decided just to call them Drum City. So Chad probably asked Joe, can I use the word Drum City? And then, there's one of his bumper stickers too. So this is them in prison. So we're actually in maximum security in Lincoln at Nebraska State Penitentiary, State Prison. And so I took they came here in an open bed pickup and wanted to rent equipment, go to Lincoln in the rain. And I said, no.
An open bed truck.
So we threw everything in my Dodge Caravan, got down there and went in and out of security. And it was so silly because you remember the old Westerns where they have the guy up in the watchtower and he lets the key down on a rope?
Yeah.
They're still doing that.
No way.
I just thought, Rapunzel! Give me the key! Yeah, so we've been getting a lot of people up here from Nashville. Here's the California raisins. So, do you know where the California raisins come from?
Not California?
Omaha, Nebraska.
No way. Yeah.
And then the vocal booth, where it all happened. And we've got a couple nice microphones, RCA ribbons from the 50s, like Elvis would have used. Sun Studios, and we've got a Sony 800, which I guess is about a $10,000 microphone now. But it works really good. You want to hear what it sounds like?
Sure.
Here, get in here. On your camera. Can you hear that it got really quiet in here?
Yeah.
When you hear that noise in your ears?
Wow.
That's every concert you went to and didn't wear earplugs. So I come in here, some people find it relaxing. I come in here and go, wee! So I've been to a lot of concerts. So tack matchless, this is made by Langley in England. And a guy named Nils used to work for Langley at the time and help design. So we did Langley upgrades because it's kind of fun when you call somebody that you bought something that's 20, 30 years old and you can actually get the guy on the phone.
Yeah, for sure.
You know. So Langley upgrades, nothing to do with the government.
This is all good stuff.
Loving this. So this is the board that you used to record Hydroponic and Unity?
Yep.
Any moments from those recordings that memorable?
Oh, all of it. All of it. I mean, it was just, basically, they were young, popular, and so happy and so excited. It was just everything about the session. I mean, that, fuck the bullshit, it's time to throw down! That just, that said it all. I mean, they played the Hard Street Tavern, and 200-300 kids would come out of there, and they'd stay on the streets and talk and hang out for another hour after the show, just to be part of it. So, and then, they were just fun. Interesting. Chad's mom and dad recorded here probably before he was born.
No.
So little tie-in there. His dad at the time was doing this amazing song called the Black Forest Symphony, and just amazing. Otherwise, he plays, country western in a band.
Huh.
And then Linda was singing, I think, on one of them. And I've known Linda, Chad, that big.
That's crazy.
Watch your step, mind the gap.
Oh yeah, that's a deep one. Oh, nice.
Boom.
Oh wow.
So here, Hammond B3, Leslie, 4-track. We did some stuff for Janet Jackson on some of the old horn sections. So we're done here in like 69. Went on to be the horn section for whoever I just said.
Janet Jackson?
Jackson family's first recording console.
No way.
Wow.
So Michael would have been about 9, signed by Tito.
You kidding? Oh my gosh. Tito, bring me a tissue.
Tito, lend me your comb.
Tell me a little bit about the prison show.
Okay. They didn't have a whole lot of equipment, and so they would come here and rent, like 2 speakers on a stick and a little mixer. And so they got a gig. Like I said, they came in with an open bed pickup truck, looked like rain. So we threw all the equipment in my van, went down to prison, and I had my camera, because I take my camera everywhere. And I said, can I take my camera in? And 2 guys were like, whoa, nobody has ever asked that before. And I said, well, can I take my camera in? And they said, nobody's ever asked that before. And they never said no.
Right.
And then they said, okay, who's driving? And so I left, got my van, went through the checkpoint, and, so gate behind me, gate in front of me, open the other gate, go in. We go to actual maximum security in the current prison system. And we unload the equipment, they play, there's maybe 30, 40 inmates, and big guy came up to me at the end of the show, I'm running sound, and he just goes, that drummer, he makes that band. And I said, Chad is one of the tastiest drummers on the planet. And then he goes, that drummer, he makes that band. And I said, Chad, the drummer, makes the band. And I just agreed with him. And then we got the hell out of there.
How did the inmates take
What?
it? How did the inmates take it?
It was something for them to do.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're in prison. And so a receptive crowd. I mean, they didn't get up and dance or anything, but a very receptive crowd. So I think if you can have music, music's the only thing that's going to save the planet.
Yeah.
Welcome to 311 Odyssey. I'm your host, Jay Two-Tone, here with Ark. And today our guests are Clint and Casey. They have known the band a long time, personally and musically. They're in the early years of Omaha. And let's dig in. First, I kind of wanted to get kind of talk about your early bands and like what the Omaha scene was like.
Yeah, Clint, you want to go first?
Sure. Yeah, it goes back. I've been playing bass guitar since I was like 11 years old. So, played our first show in Omaha when we were 14. I can remember my buddy Max Sackler and Tim Mahoney and I, I had a bass that I got for Christmas. They had their guitars learning Paranoid by Sabbath on the teen line, right? And we're just doing stuff. And then fast forward, in high school, I was more in that thrash kind of punk rock scene. I'd play like F Street Hall and Lift Ticket, where a lot of big bands that came through, like Nirvana and Soundgarden, played that before they had hit. And Tim and those guys would play. I mentioned a band called the Bushmen in high school, so it was Nick, Tim, and Chad, and they played a lot of kind of REM type stuff. And but we all played and had a great time. And then as the scene started to blossom, with 311, the Yard Apes with Casey, but we used to play a lot of shows with Secret Skin, the Yard Apes, 311. I just started 311, kind of put everything on the map, I felt, for Omaha, and from there it really blossomed into a really cool scene coming into the mid 90s and through the 2000s. So it's still a good scene now, but I think the 90s was really, really thriving. There's a lot of great local music, a lot of great local bands releasing a lot of great music and packing houses. And it was great. It was a really good vibe. It was a family feel. There wasn't like, we're the headliner. We'd all just want to play, make it an event and pack the house and have a party. And
sure.
Yeah, it was great.
The more the merrier.
Yes, absolutely.
Right, and you were in Secret Skin, and Casey was in the Yard Apes, as you mentioned. What kind of music was the Yard Apes?
Yard Apes, actually, funny enough, it was similar to the funk, rap, rock of 311. We were digging into early Chili Peppers, Uplift Mofo, and even Fishbone, just stuff like that without the horns. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we were kind of just cutting our teeth in Lincoln, Nebraska. It's about 45 minutes away. And I went to a party in Omaha, and someone gave me a tape, and it was the 311 Damn It tape. So right away, I was just like, I got to find these guys, because we just started playing. They had already been playing for a while, so I didn't know anything prior to like what Clint had just mentioned in the different formations of the band leading up to it. So I kind of came in right there as they were just, like you said, just starting to develop that scene and just watch it blossom from, say, 90, 91 on.
Wow. What a time to be. It's definitely my high school years.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's a lot of great music in the high school years, the 90s for sure.
Yeah, and it was great, because I remember, 311, I mean, when Nick and Chad went out to LA, Tim went to Arizona State for college, and it was just this, and Jimmy Watson, who was the original guitar player, who then was like Fever Trees and Old Boy Network after that. But I remember they came back, and when they all kind of unified and came together, and I think Kinnan was still in high school when they got signed. I think he wasn't even graduated from high school, and they already had a record deal and things were going. But I always remember, and Casey, I don't know, did you ever make the Shady Lane parties back in that timeline?
No, I don't remember.
There's what really kind of got 311 going, I think, was it was genius too. And Nick was always really good at marketing, and they found this place over across the river in Council Bluffs called Shady Lane Ranches, and it was just a big open grass field. And they would bring a Budweiser truck in that had like spigots, like 6 spigots of just keg beer, and they had this small little stage set up with a couple generators running, and 311 would play, and there would be 500 kids there.
Wow.
Just rocking in this field. And then that's when they really started, I think, those parties would come in. It was funny because the owner of the land, when it was time to go, he would come through with like 2 pickup trucks with like what looked like cop lights, but they weren't cop lights. So everybody's leaving. And but it was always a great time. And then that's when they really kind of graduated from that New Music Monday at the Ranch Bowl, which the Ranch Bowl is kind of that legendary venue in Omaha that most bands came through and played. And then they started just packing the house. It didn't matter if it was a Monday, Tuesday. Whenever 311 played, it was a sold out show. And it was there's just great memories, great times.
Great. I guess ask Casey a question. What at what stage in the, like you said, you came in? What was the first stages when you actually heard 311 as 311? Before the different previous names that we had. What was your first experience with them as officially 311?
Sure. Yeah, and I think it was actually before they invited Essay to join the band.
Okay.
It was kind of right in between the Damn It tape and then the Unity tape and CD.
There you go.
And so that was just magical, just watching them, because they would just pull him up on stage for a couple songs, and then he'd climb back down on stage, and it was just kind of like, keep him up there, because he was just, we all knew it. We all knew it was a perfect fit. And,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. That to be there that early and see, a core member before even a member, and everybody going, whoa, that guy needs to be on the team. Like that's an amazing story. Yeah. Because awesome. I think SA can step on any stage and just throw a freestyle out with so many words and just wow a crowd. Yeah.
He did that with us. So Lincoln is where the University of Nebraska is. And we did invite him out to a show. Didn't know if he would show up. And, midway through our set, all of a sudden, here he is. You can kind of see him standing in the back of the room. And then he just came up and freestyled over one of our songs and then left. It was just perfect.
Awesome.
I came, I saw, I conquered.
Yeah.
Right.
And I left.
Yeah.
I wish we could tape that, but we weren't running video that night.
Yeah.
Oh.
And then similar for you, Clint. Was it the Ranch Bowl? Was it previous? Have you already mentioned like when your first experience was with 311 as 311?
Well, like I mentioned, I graduated with Nick, Tim, and Chad.
Right.
So Tim and I have known each other since we were 12, I think.
Right.
So we played
so
baseball and football together, and like I mentioned, learning Black Sabbath songs on a team line. So we've been friends a long time, right? And so I watched the evolution of that band. Ward Bones was in 311 at one point in time before SA. So there's some different renditions. I remember them playing shows out, just house parties, just outside in the backyard, and they were just getting started too. But it was, I knew it was something special back then because every time they played, even from the very beginning, immediately, whether there was 4 people in front of them or 400, their heads were doing. I mean, it was there was something magical.
Definitely,
they were on to something that was special, and you kind of knew that, and just watching them grow. I remember their one of their first big shows was opening for Fugazi, and it was, I mean, they had the crowd just bumping, and it's just, they had just a great energy, and so I kind of watched them evolve from the very beginning all the way through where they are today. And Tim and I were actually texting this week together, so it's just it's just a great. There's definitely something special, and they were on a great formula at that point in time, something that was completely abstract to what the Midwest was, because I think they brought the West Coast, or what was happening like out in Los Angeles, to the Midwest, and I thought that was a great thing for Chad and Nick to do, and it was really cool.
Definitely.
And Nick talks about his first rock and roll experience as a talent show. Were you there for this talent show?
The talent show at West Side?
The West Side Boys?
I think so.
Yeah.
Where he and Kurt Grubb and a couple of other guys did some Clash songs.
Yep. and we did a Metallica song, so we played Seek and Destroy.
Nice. And the way he tells it, he's like,
we were only scheduled to do 2 songs. We were supposed to do Police and Thieves and Protect Blue, and we had talked to all of our friends, including the spotlight operator, said as soon as we get done, everybody just start cheering, encore, encore, leave the spotlights on. We're going to cause a riot. And we had a video of that we watched a few times. I bet it got erased over, but it was like such magic. Everyone was going so crazy. And even though our band was supposed to be called a tribute to the Clash, because we were playing Clash songs, Miss O'Brien, the music teacher, just said, well, I just like the Clash better. So our first performance was done as the Clash.
Yeah.
And so we played the 2 songs.
I don't think she knew the real band existed.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I'm not sure she knew that.
And then everyone started cheering, encore, encore, and they left the lights on and stuff, because the lighting operators were just kids our age that were in cahoots with us. And then Miss O'Brien ran around after we
Hold on one second. You got when you said the word magic earlier, you're getting to the punchline too quickly here. As I recall, being 13 years old at the time, it was throngs, maybe like 4 or 5. The whole school was in the cafeteria there, screaming, not just encore, but screaming like a Beatles show. Yeah. It was absolutely out of control. We looked at each other and we were just like, yeah, let's go for this. Let's go rogue and cue punchline.
And then we rip into Should I Stay or Should I Go as our surprise unplanned encore. And then Miss O'Brien ran around and unplugged our amps. So all you could hear after that was Mark Kessler, boom, chick, boom, boom, chick. And then he just stopped because he realized it was over. So our punk rock rebellion only lasted a little bit, but what a high.
She got the biggest boo of her life, and we carried on in lore throughout all through high school.
Yeah.
And shutting them down like, no, you guys.
The answer must have been go.
Yes. Yeah. No, you should go.
So I remember our senior yearbook. There's a picture of Nick holding his tobacco sunburst Les Paul up like this, and underneath it said, "I'm going to be a rock star," and that was his senior year. So he had it in his blood. Like, this is what I want to do for a living. It's great.
Yeah, I've heard multiple people say that in the past. His parents, most recently at the Omaha induction, but in my limited interaction with him, he's a leader, and like I think he speaks life into things. Like he sees something, and it's magical thing.
Yeah, good vision and great great musician.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he plays. I mean, I think he played in the jazz band at Westside. I mean, he was playing guitar. So I mean,
Always
special
trying to get
guy.
better.
Yep, absolutely.
So there was the Damn It tape, and then they came out with Unity, which was the cassette, and then they put it out on CD. How big of a deal was that when the local Omaha band came out on CD?
Yeah, that was huge. No local bands were doing that yet.
Right, none. It was all cassette tape.
And the production that they got out of that, because it just didn't sound local. You know, it was punchy and tight, and again, the songwriting was great. And yeah, they were just leagues above everybody else.
Well, and CDs weren't that old to begin with, so the audio technology for everyone was like,
Right.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome.
Very cool.
Right.
And they were already well on their way too. This just took kind of drew the line in the sand, just the bar that much higher.
Yeah.
They gave bands like Secret Skin and Yard Apes, made us hungrier. Like let's go, man. They can do it. We can do it. Let's go.
Yeah.
And then they did the hydroponic cassette right after that, the little EP, and they just never, like, their work ethic was just constant. And we all like to party, and we would party after shows with them, in Nick's parents' basement and stuff. But he would even be like, "Got to come out and listen to this in my car." And he played "Today My Love" and just loved that string section, and he was just always focused on, this is the next thing we're writing right now. And we're not even there. We would play a show and then we'd just screw off for 2 weeks as a band.
Right. And they're just writing machines. I mean, it's kept right. Hence the reason they've been able to do it for 30 plus years, right? Because they're constantly, that they're always wanting to create and never really lost that love of the art of creating. And that's awesome.
Nick often uses the word Kaizen, always trying to achieve the next level or obtain knowledge, and also to remain teachable, always trying to learn. And that's from youth until now, obviously, that's the success trail that type of thinking leaves. Very good leader.
Yeah. And, he always recognized, I remember there's times we'd be on the bus, we'd be out on tour, and of course we're in the van and they're in the bus, and we're always like, gosh, can't wait till we don't have to drive and we can actually be in the bus or what have you. But
the big leagues.
I remember playing some stuff. We were all partying out in the front of the bus, and they played some recent recordings, or maybe a recording, and Nick was, he was constructively, like, he would critique himself constructively. Like, he wasn't like, "Oh, shut that off, that's horrible." He was just like, he always would be like, "I could do that better," or kind of always looking at things. And I'm listening to it, I was like, "Sounds great to me." I don't know what you're hearing or what you're thinking, but in the crowd, the 3,000 people jumping up and down in front of you obviously felt the same way as I do. So. But he was always able to do that. I think that's just him striving to be positive and better, and put, speaking positivity and love into things, and believing in himself. So it's great. Contagious.
It is. Yeah. Big attribute to the success, no doubt.
No doubt.
Yeah. And I know Casey has a pretty fun story about how he came to open up for 311. I love the story. I love it.
Just about, okay, so when I found the Damn It tape, right?
Mm-hmm.
Talking about?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I was just bound and determined to find them. And I didn't live in Omaha, so I just got a phone book. And, me being the drummer, it's like I got to find the drummer in the band, and looked up Sexton and just called the number, and he happened to answer right there.
Wow.
And I think a few of them were there hanging out at his house. But, yeah, he was just so polite on the phone, and saying, that's great, you got the tape, but we have Unity coming out, and where are you going to be this week? We're playing here. Why don't you come up and introduce yourself after the show? So it just kind of led from there. And I think I gave him a copy of our tape at that time. And, they just were like, you open up for us here. And then when we come to Lincoln, because we already had a crowd, it wasn't huge, like them, but 200-300 people would show up. They would come play with us in Lincoln. And
that's awesome. Love.
Yeah.
That was the great part about, I think, of the Omaha scene and the Omaha Lincoln scene, is that everybody was open to cross marketing, like going and playing together, and not really like, oh, we're the headliners or whatever. 311 was headliners because everybody. I mean, if they played, then everybody would leave, and you'd have 100 people because they were the official headliners, kind of in the Omaha scene back in the early '90s, early '90s. But we all, it was like a brotherhood, where we just wanted to play together and help. We wanted to see every local band succeed.
Yeah.
Because I think as we all became better and had better followings, we could cross market to each other's crowds, and then it made the hype even bigger. Like, people started getting excited about Omaha and Lincoln and what was happening. And then 311 hit 95 when they really took off with the Blue album and hit and really got put on the map. It was even that much more of a highlight. So it's great.
That's crazy.
Do you remember that time we went to Wichita, Clint?
Yeah, I do. I got pictures of that too still.
On the way back, we didn't have enough room or something, and somebody was riding in the back of an open bed pickup from Wichita, Kansas, all the way to Lincoln. Getting sunburned.
Wait a minute. I hope there was a rotation. I hope there was a rotation. Somebody got stuck.
Yeah, it was no rotation. They got good sunburns. About a 5-hour drive. Right. Remember going to the club when we pulled down that thing and there was a car on fire?
Yes. Our introduction. Wichita.
Like, what's happening? Why are we in the neighborhood in a bar where cars on fire and people are cheering about it? Oh boy!
Oh god!
This could be a good night.
Yeah. Totally remember that.
So much fun.
So it's the guys. Oh, first I wanted to say Casey opened on the farewell show when 311 decided to move to LA.
It was monumentous for sure. I mean, they had, I think, 10 bands scheduled that night. Did you play that night too, Clint?
The farewell show?
It was either Carbon. I can't remember which one.
Yeah. I don't think we played that night.
It was with 10 bands. It was like they had so many like roadie crew members. I had 5 guys grab, assemble a tom, a kick drum. Before I knew it, my kit was off the stage before even I.
Oh wow!
Crank out, but that room, I mean, it was crazy. Yeah, just everybody was so happy to see them go to that next step, go to that next level.
Well, that leads into the next question about what the vibe was like. Like, bittersweet, I'm sure, in some way, but also since it's such a supporting environment, I'm sure there was some,
Yeah, we knew they would always come back and just give us what we wanted. The great shows they'd been delivering.
It's home.
I remember the work ethic leading up to that move. They hung out every day, they practiced every day, and they were just tight, in every way. Friends, as musicians, as business partners, whatever you call it, they were just in sync.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt.
And it takes that too, similar to a sports team or any kind of team. Your coaching, your players, management, everything's got to be firing. And the same thing, all your members got to be focused in the right direction with the same energy and the same amount of the drive. That practice every day and find brotherhood, even though you want to, eventually. Yeah, there's all of that. It's a relationship in so many ways. So thank God.
I think they're one of
came from a healthy garden.
Yeah. And I think they're one of few bands that have the original members, right? I mean, I don't think there's very many bands in the industry itself that could say, like, for 30 years, we have the exact same members of this group.
I forget what he says. Right. De La Soul and, does he say U2 in there?
U2.
I think they're third or fourth.
And the list has grown now as they're getting past the 30 mark. There's some other bands that have come into that fold, but still, it's remarkable regardless. Yeah, and to still be relevant. Yeah, definitely.
To your point, it's that relationship, and it's kind of like a marriage, right? You got to compromise, you got to come together, and then create, and still have that creative environment. And
Well, and it came from you guys' garden, your soil, your home.
Yep.
Not to use the corny grassroots, homegrown grassroots reference, but I mean that's what it is. It's a testament to the whole area, and all you guys as like a community. Yeah.
Grassroots is my favorite record. I think that's their best album they ever wrote.
Yeah.
The music on that is phenomenal. It's just like they really went into that. I felt that they went in and just laid it all out, like as artists, all of them. The music, everything, it was great.
I friggin' love it too. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
So when music came out, I'm assuming you guys picked that up like right away.
Mm-hmm.
Like, these are my homeboys here. Was there songs on there that you were like, man, I wish they would have put that on there? Because it was like a collection of some of the early and a little bit of new stuff, but
That's a good question, because there were songs that we knew so well, like Slinky, Push It Away, that had really cool riffs that we were just like, maybe they didn't fit on that record, but we were hoping they would professionally record those. But I thought it was a perfect fit, that whole music album from start to finish.
Yep.
Very good.
See, and just the quality, what Eddie Offer did with them in the studio, and I remember Chad talking about just how much he learned about just recording drums, right? Just the recording process, because that's something I've learned over the years, that there's a big difference between going in and recording an album and playing live. And it's night and day in reference to what you're trying to accomplish. Live, you can just kind of go for it, but you got to be kind of polished in, but also just really dialed in artistically when you're actually recording an album. And that's what I've learned over the years, which is cool. And they had that early on. Like, I think that's what I remember Chad and Tim talking about, working with a real producer. Yeah, work ethic, and then working with a real producer, right? That's actually helping them not push them outside of their limits, but help push them to where they never maybe thought they could go. And I think they've captured a lot of that on those early records.
And they learned it.
Now it's just,
and carried forward every time. Yeah, definitely.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're not just getting processed and pushed out. They're students all along. It's the whole thing is class act. Yeah.
Yep.
And then I think it was 2000 when Clever started opening?
Oh, gosh. 97 is when when Clever. Yeah, so it was like 97, 98, 99. We played a lot of shows with them, and but they were on a real different level at that point in time. They're playing amphitheater. I mean, it's a lot different saying, "Hey, can we open for you at Sokol?" Or Ranch Bowl versus, "Hey, you're on tour and you're playing Sandstone." Okay, no doubts. Okay.
Yeah,
but we were able to get on some cool shows with them, which is awesome. It was always a big party.
Did it feel different when you met up with them again from the early days to like 99 once they got big? Did they seem like the same guys? Absolutely the same guys, for sure. I would say different environment, right? So, I can remember Tim telling me, he said they're at Madison Square Garden, him and Chad were telling me this, and I remember they talked about their backstage, the Mercury A&R rep was there. They're about ready to open for Kiss at Madison Square Garden. So, they're there, right? They're already at this apex, of what they're doing. But they wanted to go further, right? They knew that they had the means to even take it up 5 more notches. And that's what the Mercury rep said. He goes, are you ready for this? And I remember Chad and Tim saying, "Yeah, we've been dreaming about this. We're ready for it. We're ready for it." Because your life's going to change in front of your eyes. Are you ready for this? And I remember them saying, you didn't really understand what they meant by that until, what was it? Mercury took over. It was like 6 or 8 weeks, and they went from 500, 600,000 records to like triple platinum, cover of Rolling Stone, MTV Spring Break. They're just doing their thing. But then Tim talks, about
living in he used to be able to go to the store, and then when that happens, you're not able to go to the store. I mean, you're getting people kind of mobbing around you. And then when I mentioned the environment, they talked about just fanatical fans that were kind of like, hey, you gotta. That's why security is always so tight at that level, just because I think it's a different level of environment that they have to have some precautions in place. But as far as the dudes and them being the dudes, they were always the same.
Always same guys.
Yeah, always
same dudes playing a different game.
Yep. Just a little bit more like secure environment, just to make sure that everything was safe. But that's what happens when you get into the limelight, right? You kind of go from you're living on this planet to now you're in a fishbowl, and everybody wants to see what you're doing, how you're doing it. Maybe, and this is kind of, we have to remember back before social media and everything. Now it seems like everybody can kind of keep in touch with everything a little bit deeper now. But back then it was like you're either seeing them in person or you may watch a video or hear them on the radio. So
yeah, the rest of the time it's what the music feels like in your head, and all come with it. And then if you see them in public, you just freak out.
Right.
Real quick, I took my stepdaughters to a 2006 Chicago show, and one of their boyfriends noticed Chad just walking around like while Snoop Dogg was opening up. And so he came back, he's like, Chad's right over there. So I went over, of course he remembered me, we talked. And then my girls were just like bawling, like they're like the girls when they would see the Beatles, because they're just so like emotionally, it's what 311 music meant to them.
That's awesome.
And it was so because they were just sitting there going, oh my God, I can't believe it's you. I got to witness that firsthand with my girls. It was a great moment. Chad was super nice about that.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
My two daughters, the same thing, 2017 in the Met Philly, the same deal. SA came from behind the fence and acknowledged them, and they got like, oh my God. And then he like told them to wait. And then when it was all over, he brought them behind, just them two, and like to talk to them and like get their stuff signed. It was so gracious and cool. So I saw that same thing for my daughters, man. It's an amazing experience when it goes from like, whoa, that's a person, to like all the feelings of the music, to then the embodiment and like all the thank yous and the tears. And it's like, it was very magical. Very magical.
That's cool.
Yep. Yeah, because and I think that's what, I guess maybe just speaking as just artists like Casey, I mean, that's part of it, right? Like when music is meaningful to someone in their life, like it got me through this tough time, or this reminds me of this. And I mean, when you feel that emotion from a fan, that's what the art's all about.
Yeah.
So being that meaningful, and they're meaningful to a lot of people, and especially 30 years. 30-year vets of this, they've helped probably a lot of people through a lot of different times. Happy, sad, good, bad. I mean, it's
more to come.
And that's why we're here. That's why we're here doing this, is because it means so much to us, Yeah,
absolutely.
Little bit. So when's the last time that you guys maybe have got to see him live, Casey? We can ask you, when is the last time you've been to interact with the guys or seen them around live?
It's been a minute. Just through the years, I would catch them in different cities. They played here in Nashville. What year was that?
That's got to be great.
Yeah. I want to say probably 09, maybe. They were working on either Uplifter or something. But yeah, that was probably the last time I saw them in person. Cool. Got to see it before the show.
Nice. Very good.
Yeah. How about you, Clint?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was out of town. They were just in Omaha a couple weeks ago when they got inducted and everything. My son, that's the picture you've seen with Tim that I shared with you. That was at that show. So I unfortunately was out of town and missed that show. But I seen them, they played Lincoln like 2 years ago. I think it was right before COVID and all the stuff. They played a street party down in Lincoln. That's the last time that I've actually seen him. So it's been maybe 2-3 years since I've seen
street party show.
It was like right there from the Capitol, right?
Very cool.
Yep.
Yeah. I think that was like 17. I think.
Yeah. 17. So it's been, gosh, time's flying. 17.
A little bit.
About 6 years, 7 years. Oh. So it's been a little bit.
Yeah.
but Tim and I keep in contact, texting and, phone calls and stuff. So, but it's been a little bit. I was bummed that I missed him this last time around.
Yeah, me too. I was bummed. I'm bummed for you and for myself, and I know Jenny's bummed.
Yeah.
And Casey, you're bummed too. We're
all bummed.
We're all lying if we would say we wouldn't want to have been there. So that was very cool event.
Yeah.
And B-Love, he couldn't make it this time, but I was able to talk to Nils down at Rainbow Studios, and he was able to go in there and talk with Nils a little bit about those early days and recording those early records with them. And I was like, I wish I could have been there.
Yeah, it's cool. That's a great studio. Clever recorded their first album at Nils at Rainbow.
Oh wow!
2-inch reel to reel. Yeah, it was pretty awesome. It's a great studio, great room. There's some. I think Boys to Men did a Christmas album there, and there's some good artists that have recorded there. A lot of cool vintage, like 2-inch reel to reel compressors, like really cool mics. I mean, Nils is he has everything. It's like if you need something, especially vintage, he has it somewhere in that building. He's a good dude.
Yeah, he was telling us about how they used to rent the equipment to just set up wherever.
Yeah, and I guess that's a good point too that I'll bring up in case you kind of remember this is when 311 was out on the Grassroots tour and their RV burnt to the ground.
Yeah.
You remember that. And when you ask about the Omaha scene stood right behind 311 because they, like all the music stores, Nils, like Russo's, all the local music stores, all came together and got them, guitars and amps and drums and gear and got them back out on the road so they didn't miss a beat. Omaha just stepped up to the plate to help the homeboys of hometown kids, like it was awesome.
Yeah, the next night they performed the very next night.
Right.
And that's pretty incredible.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yep. Tried to do our best to help them because that was a travesty. Luckily nobody got hurt in that, but pretty scary. And it would have been really sad, Casey, if coming home from Wichita and we watched our truck burn to the ground with all our stuff in it. Oh no.
I know. I've heard stories like that, like Radiohead. I remember when they were kind of up and coming playing Denver, someone just took their whole trailer behind their bus.
Oh my gosh.
Long.
So many stories like that. I know.
Yep.
All right, so let's see what we talked favorite album a little bit. How about favorite songs? How about you, Casey?
Gosh, I like that being a percussionist. There's vibraphone on 816, and I just love that the whole song posed. They go into different time signatures but yeah, I love that song. Because it's magical. I love that song.
It's a great song.
I'd have to second that. That's probably the coolest song on that record. It has a swanky groove to it when they go into that oh, it's so good. Yeah, so I would have to say the same.
Fast, fusionist kind of solo that Tim does later on. That's amazing too.
Yeah, it's great. He's a great guitar player.
It was definitely a very unique sound. No one else is doing that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's what they're going for. They'd kind of established, I think, a good national. At that point in time, they were able to get out and they had some good management behind them. And they were traveling and doing hard, but I think they really said, we're going to go in and just create a killer album that's just full of artistic outlet. And not that the other ones aren't, but you know what I mean? It just seems like they wanted to establish hey, the second album, we're going. This is what we're going to do. And then it just kind of launched everything from there, moving forward of what their sound really is. And because that was their sophomore release, so they had to come out because music was so strong. They had all their greatest hits that they've been playing, here regionally for years, so everybody loved it. So we were really excited to hear that that album when it came out, and
I love it. A strong sophomore album is always indicative of good things to come. I can't say always, but most of the time, when you've like you say, you used up the hits that people have heard, you come out with a second album now that you got a little bit of, traction, and those hit. Like I really, that whole album, it just, yeah. But they all do this. They all take you on those little twists and turns as they've evolved and changed. So
yeah,
that's the boys for you.
Yeah. Yep, it is.
So what do you think, Jenny?
Is there a live moment that stands out to you? Just something that the first time you heard it, or it just hit at a certain time and it just resonated with you?
Man, for me, it'd have to go back to those Ranch Bowl days, because they just owned that room, and that sound system was just perfect for them. And just if you watch that Ranch Bowl video that I think I sent to you, right, Jen?
Mm-hmm.
And there's comments under that. Someone's like, they announced this new song called Plane, and they put LOL. And yeah, we would get to hear new songs for the first time ever. And even Chad, again, being a drummer, speaking that perspective, sometimes he would set up his kit without any toms, just so he could focus on the beat. There'd be a kick, a snare, a couple cymbals, and he'd play the whole night like that. Yep. So witnessing them just grinding it and figuring out the parts. And yeah.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I remember going back again. I think we went to his house that night after that show, and there's like all 5 of his toms just stacked in the corner.
Well, and it wasn't like, hey, look, I can play drums with no time. It was, to your point, it's focusing solely on the getting your head to do this. That the grid is what they call it, right? Just establishing the grid.
Yeah.
That might have stemmed from his drum court days too,
Oh yeah.
Just making sure he's in that pocket.
Yep. So it wasn't any one particular moment, but there were just so many nights at the Ranch Bowl that they kept killing it. You showed up, there was never an off night. I remember one time at the tavern, Nick had a cold, and he just didn't feel like playing percussion, because he would bring up timbales and a little splash cymbal and stuff. And I kind of begged him, and he was like, oh, all right, I'll do it. And he brought it up on stage, and just, he was sick, but he nailed it.
Nice.
It's great.
And I imagine the age, there's a magical age that you guys were all at, like that. Just that, can't get that magic back. That's amazing. That's very amazing.
Yep.
That youth and the hunger that you had.
Right.
Yeah.
Don't know what you don't know. All you know is that you're trying to create great music that you love, and you hope other people love, and you hope it's inspiring to them and moves them. And like I said, that's when I knew they had the formula. And this was back playing at a backyard party at one of our friends' house from West Side. Pool's there, parents are out of town. The cops did show up, but
the best times.
Everybody. It didn't matter if there's nobody in front of them or everybody in front of them. They always had. They had the vibe. It was great.
Very good.
You got anything to add, Ross?
No, it's an overload of information. It's a couple new facts that I learned. Met two Brodels in the extended 311 family that, as Nick says, you standing on the shoulders of giants and walking through, and it's just great to meet 2 members of that garden where all that great energy and music and that sound came from. So I thank you both for your input and your time today,
Absolutely.
Sharing that with us. Sure. Every interaction we have with everyone shapes their reality. So you 2 guys had very early, 311 shaping. So I thank you both as much as I would thank them, to get them out to us.
Yeah. Thank you for having us. We appreciate you guys.
Thank you. I enjoyed this very much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Likewise.
Me as well.
All right, 311 Odyssey signing off.
Awesome.
Have a great night.
Peace.